Hey, welcome everyone. In this video, I'll be reviewing the Apple TV 4K second generation device. So before we continue any further, one thing I do want to mention is the price point of this media player, because it's incredibly overpriced. It's a rock solid media player with a lot of strengths, but it has a lot of shortcomings. So I do recommend you watch the entire video review before drawing your conclusions based on what I'm saying, but this is something I want to mention right off the bat because I think this is the most important thing about this media player. Another item is that even at this price point, Apple doesn't even include an HDMI cable in the box. Yeah. Let's go over what is arguably the biggest talking point about this media player that's listed across the internet, and that's the remote. The original remote for the previous model was terrible. It had gesture controls that would inaccurately go all over the place. Apple listened to the criticism and made the remote simplified. It's not the most comfortable remote as it's a little heavier than it needs to be due to the recycled aluminum casing, but not a big deal. It's small enough so that reaching for the buttons you need to use is easy with one hand. One thing that had me concerned was the center of the navigation controls, which is also a touch-based sensor, which is annoying as I accidentally select the wrong thing often. Thankfully, this gesture control can be disabled in the options menu. You can also swivel around on the navigation physical buttons to fast forward and rewind content, but that's only if the app is compatible. There are some apps that it will not work with, but that's a developer issue. For those that notice, there isn't a home button, but that's okay because just simply pressing and holding the back button will go to the home screen. On the far right is the dedicated Siri button, which I'll demonstrate later on. When it comes to powering the remote, I'm very pleased to say that it has a built-in rechargeable battery. It requires a lightning cable, one is included in the box, but on the flip side, it should have been USB-C based. Unfortunately, the media player doesn't have a USB port, and there's no power brick in the box, which means you'll have to use something else. Again, at this price point, it's weird that they didn't include that in the box. For Android users in particular, those that have a quick charging brick, be careful about using your quick charger as you don't want to risk damaging the remote battery. I've been testing this media player for over 2 weeks and I've only had the battery go down about 2%, which is pretty impressive. If your TV is compatible, you can use the remote to turn off the TV or control their TV volume. For some reason, the remote can't turn my TV on even though there's an IR blaster built inside. But with that IR blaster built into the remote, that means theoretically you might be able to control your other home theater devices, for example. The remote also supports Bluetooth 5.0. You can use your iPhone or iPad as a remote, since most recent versions of iOS and iPadOS have a built-in remote control function in Control Center. The functions are basic on the remote app. Sadly, there's no remote app available for Android devices. There are some designed by third-party developers, but they have terrible ratings, they don't work well. You're not going to get any success on the Android side of things, basically. The media device is pretty small, measuring at 3.9 by 3.9 by 1.4 inches, and it actually looks like a tiny, darker Mac Mini. Underneath, it looks like it has pretty soft padding, but unfortunately it does not, so if you plan to put on a glass surface, be warned, just place it on very carefully. Underneath is also where the ventilation is. On the back is a port for power, HDMI 2.1, and a gigabit Ethernet port. I'm quite happy that it supports a gigabit connection as that's pretty rare in media players. On top of that, Apple has placed a Wi-Fi 6 adapter instead of the typical Wi-Fi 5 found in other media players too. Apple has basically future-proofed connectivity in this media player, which I have to give them big props for. The media player also supports Bluetooth 5.0, which means you can connect other devices such as a PlayStation 5 DualSense controller or an Xbox Series X controller to this device. I have 2 other videos explaining how to get those 2 controllers connected. Links to those are in the video description. You can also connect a wireless Bluetooth keyboard or mouse, and you can also connect Bluetooth headsets for private listening. In fact, when it comes to AirPods in particular, you can connect 2 of them so 2 people can listen on private listening at the same time. Interestingly enough, the media player supports Thread wireless technology. Thread is basically wireless technology primarily geared at smart home devices to connect with one another without needing a middleman service such as IFTTT. I do explain what IFTTT is in another video. Thread is also the same technology found in the recently released Nest Hub 2 from Google. Unfortunately, Thread technology doesn't do anything in the Nest Hub 2 or this media player yet. At this price, I'm quite disappointed there's no USB port to charge the remote or even connect an external storage unit to watch your own media content. The internal storage is primarily reserved for operating systems and apps. I tried researching ways to copy my own files to the internal storage of the Apple TV device, but all the results on the internet and even on Reddit forums suggest people use media players to sync to a server such as VLC or Plex. However, syncing it to VLC or Plex is just streaming. It doesn't actually allow you to copy anything to the internal storage. Apple doesn't want you to do that and it made it incredibly difficult. I can't find a solution to get it done, which is incredibly disappointing because again, at this price point, Why am I limited in functionality on what I can do with this media player? It doesn't make any sense. On a more positive note, powering everything is an A12 Bionic processor, which is also found in the 2018 versions of the iPhone. Now, a 3-year-old processor from a phone placed in this device might sound like a put-off, but don't think that way. Honestly, it's incredibly powerful for this media player. I'll demonstrate some of the speed and performances later on, which is quite shocking and awesome. The media player and remote only come in the colors I show in this video. Apple doesn't list how much power this device consumes, but on that note, the power cord is 6 feet long. Okay, so switching over to the software side of things, because this is where everything's like really comes together. This is the home screen. And in fact, the home screen is the only main screen. There's no subsections of any kind. What you see is pretty much what you get. The apps are listed out in a very tiled manner, very easy to use, very easy to navigate, which is a good thing, but also works against the media player because it's incredibly dull and boring. It's very reminiscent of an iPhone home screen. A lot of competitor media players nowadays actually have recommendations of what content you might want to watch from Netflix that caters towards your watching preference. Same with Disney Plus, Prime TV. So Apple's kind of lacking in that regard. It's just a boring interface, but it's stable, smooth, and fast. I do have to admit that. So of course you can rearrange the icons as you wish, including this top banner icon here. And I won't be playing any video content through any app due to copyright rules of YouTube, but I just want to go over quickly how quick the apps open up. So Disney Plus, for example, is one of the heavier media player apps available across any media player I've tested, and you see that the opening speed is incredibly fast. In fact, I can say with confidence that in the most recent media players I've reviewed, Disney Plus opens the fastest on this media player. The speed of this media player, I cannot understate how powerful it is. It's incredibly powerful. The speed of this media player is superb. So, despite the chipset being roughly 3 years old, don't underestimate it. This is one of the most powerful media players you can get on the market right now, probably save for the NVIDIA Shield, which a lot of people will debate because the software is where a lot of that control comes into. But even opening Netflix is a very heavy app. You see the speed is like literally within a second of me clicking and deselecting the application itself. YouTube as well is just your generic YouTube layout, nothing special here. Now, one thing that I've noticed across the internet is a lot of people have issues with HDR and SDR playback, where the media player will tend to kind of flip between and cause some issues with the way the picture looks. To be honest, I haven't encountered that issue, and not everyone will encounter that problem. I haven't. So far, my performance in playback has been superb. If it's original content on, say, Netflix, it plays back in 4K HDR, say, for example, Formula One Drive to Survive, it's absolutely stunning. The quality is superb, also depending on your screen, of course. Same with original content on Disney Plus and Prime Video. So I haven't encountered that issue, but something you might want to look out for. If you're noticing anything weird, you might have to research on the internet how to fix it. Now, you can add additional profiles, okay? It can be done under your users and accounts. The thing to keep in mind here is that what's really annoying is that if you want to add additional accounts, so additional profiles, say of your family members, you can kind of cater more towards their preferences of what they want to watch and stuff. They have to have an Apple ID. It's not as simple as, say, a Prime TV streaming stick, like a Fire TV stick, or a Google TV where you can just add a profile and just be done. Unfortunately, you have to sign up an Apple ID account. It's pretty annoying and convoluted. So I opened the apps up incredibly quickly. Actually, I should show you Apple TV. It'd be pretty embarrassing if I didn't show you their main app, right? So you see everything is in quick succession, super fast. Pressing and holding the back button, it goes back to the home screen incredibly quickly. Now, I went through the other apps rather quickly because it just does it instantly, like the snap of a finger. What I want to touch base on is Plex. One of my sample videos is this video right here. Okay, this is raw video footage from the same camera recording this very same video. My camera records at 150 megabits per second. That's extremely high bit rate for a video recording. The odd thing is though, when I try to play it back on this media player, despite it having a Wi-Fi 6 card and I even plugged in an Ethernet port with a gigabit switch, you'll notice this server connection is not fast enough. I don't believe this is a hardware issue. I highly doubt this has anything to do with Apple. I really am doubting that. I think the issue here is mainly that the Plex app is probably not optimized that well for this media player. I noticed that even some other videos which has a low bit rate, they don't perform that well. It takes a little while to load up and start playing the video, which is strange. So what this app can play, when it is working, of course, 1080p, 4K content, whether it be an H.264, H.265, and of course an MKV or MP4 file format. So a little unfortunate because when Plex works well, it works amazing. The best performance I've still seen to date is on the NVIDIA Shield. Not so great here, but hopefully something gets resolved on the software side of things. And of course, if you do have some games you want to install from the App Store, or if you have an Apple Arcade account, can connect a gaming controller like I mentioned earlier and start playing away. You'll have no problems with most of the apps available, at least the game side, because again, the processor in this media player is incredibly powerful. And let's not forget about the smart assistant built in, Siri. So I want to show you something. I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but there's some lights I'm going to turn on, my Philips Hue in the background of the TV. So let's give it a shot. Turn on Basin TV lights. I'm not sure if the camera can pick it up, but they did turn on the lights in the background now. It's incredibly fast, but it's not just limited to smart home functionality, of course. Siri can be used for other services. So for example, Ted Lasso. Open Disney Plus. Open Netflix. Open Plex. And you're seeing that nothing was cut and edited in that video segment just now. Siri and the processor are just really knocking the performance out of the park. It's incredibly fast. I just cannot get over how quick and smooth the performance of this media player is. So what I'm actually doing right now is mirroring my iPhone screen to the TV itself through Apple device. And I'll say that's about roughly a second in delay. I wouldn't say more than a second. The process is quite smooth. In fact, let me see if I can broadcast the camera. It's incredibly dark because I'm doing this in almost pitch black. But there's my camera, there's a TV, so you can, an idea of that the ability to mirror the screen does a pretty incredible well job. So what I'm going to do right now is play some content over AirPlay. So it's being broadcasted from my iPhone to the Apple TV hardware device. So here it goes. The quality is not looking good. I'm not sure if my camera will pick it up while I was recording my TV screen, but I can see with my own eyes, the quality is rather blurry. And the raw file footage, of course, is a lot better. So it's much more sharper and clearer. So this will be a disappointing performance if you're using AirPlay for video content. Pictures is not bad, but I don't recommend it for video. So I do want to take a quick note to mention that in terms of audio, this media player does support Dolby Digital 5.1, Dolby Digital Plus 7.1 surround sound, Dolby Atmos, and Apple Lossless. When it comes to video support, it does play back in 4K HDR and 60 frames per second, HDR10, Dolby Vision, and HLG. If you're watching original video content from Apple TV streaming service, Disney Plus, Prime Video, or Netflix, content such as Formula One, Drive to Survive, original content from those media players, apps, the content will look incredible. That, of course, is dependent on your TV, but I can say that the content being sent from Apple TV to the TV will not disappoint. It will output in fantastic quality. And that's pretty much a wrap to the review. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the price point is the biggest negative point, although it is a pretty rock solid media player, but that's just it. It's a streaming media player. Can't play anything locally, can't plug in a USB stick because there's no USB port. It has a number of shortcomings, but I will say this, as someone who uses NVIDIA Shield as a daily device, I have to say that Apple blew it out of the water. I mean, the performance of the Apple TV device is just faster than the NVIDIA Shield. The NVIDIA Shield seems to process Plex better, but the overall software experience in opening other apps, the Apple TV device is faster and smoother. And that's quite shocking, but awesome to see. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, be sure to check out my social links in the video description. Hit the like button, it does help. Subscribe, and thanks for watching.